Before we jump into today's episode, I want to invite you to an upcoming event, which I'm calling A Slice of the Recipe. It's a live Meet Your Coach and program tour. This is an opportunity for you to get a transparent, behind-the-scenes guided tour of my signature program, which is called the Recipe for Social Selling on LinkedIn. It's a system that I've designed that I still use to this day as someone who is self-employed, which is really focused on the principles of social selling on LinkedIn. Now, it might be also for you if you know you could be getting better results on LinkedIn and you're ready to replace your guesswork with professional certainty with me as your guide. I've got 2 upcoming sessions. The first is on Wednesday, March 4th at noon, and the second one is on Wednesday, March 18th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Both of these events are Eastern Time. You can visit the website to see times in your local area. Now, these are not another free masterclass or webinar. It's not free coaching. It's not a private consulting session, nor is it a generic lecture where you need to take notes. Instead, what this is, it's a transparent guided tour of the recipe system. It's a preview of actual lessons and checklists. I'm going to show those to you on screen. And it's also a look at my signature social selling system in action. If you're interested in joining me, go to mellermarketing.com/recipe-slice. I'll also put the link in show notes below. With that said, now on to the show. Welcome back to the show. Hey, I don't know if you've heard, but I'm doing this new thing now and it's working really well. It's my no more free for free year. I should have been doing this a while ago, but I finally got to the place where I realized that my time is valuable and the expertise is helping people to do better on LinkedIn. So in different areas of LinkedIn and marketing, etc. So I've decided to really focus those efforts so much more on my members and my paid clients. On that note, today's episode on the podcast is a member spotlight. Pam Lippit is a member of my Marketing with Meller membership and learning community. And I started doing this feature where I interview the members and we talk about one of their products, services, or area of expertise. I ask them several questions. We learn more about it. We go into some depth, and then we open it up to the Marketing with Meller community, and they ask some follow-up questions as well. And then I put this episode on my podcast because my podcast has some pretty good traction. Obviously, you're listening to it. You get it, right? And I figured, why not make my platforms and my time and efforts focused on supporting people like Pam Lippit. So in today's episode, you're going to hear more about Pam's leadership team training. She focuses on team training. Actually, that's focused more on leadership communication. And it's a newer offering that she's rolling it out. I'm going to put a link into the show notes in case you're interested in learning more. And also, if you'd ever like to join us inside Marketing with Meller, you know you have an open invite. Just go to mellermarketing.com/join, and I'll put the link into show notes as well. And now, on to the show. All right. Good afternoon and welcome. Today is January 27th, 2026. We're back here for Marketing with Meller, and this is a member spotlight. This is the second time we're doing this, and this is a new offering I'm bringing into the program as a way of learning more about our members. And we're doing this live here on Zoom today. This will also go on my podcast later. And as we're recording it as January, this will probably go on the podcast, let's say February, March, maybe leaning a little bit more towards March-ish. So if you happen to be listening to this on the podcast, if you're interested in learning more about Marketing with Meller, I'll put the link inside show notes. And today we're going to hear from Pam Lippit. So hey, Pam, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Doing great. Can't complain. And always great to be in a conversation with you. So first thing I'm going to do is inside Zoom, I'm going to spotlight Pam and myself. So we're kind of pulling us up to full screen mode here. And we do have a few other members that will be joining us here. And I want to start first with Pam. I'll let you give your 1 to 2 minute introduction of yourself. There might be folks that are listening to this later in Marketing with Meller or on the podcast who are just meeting you for the very first time. So tell us, what do you do? Who do you help? What do you help them with?
First of all, I want to thank you for this opportunity, Brenda. Brenda and I met, I think it's almost 5 years ago, at a program about LinkedIn back in the day. And not only do I support all her work, she supports all my work. So I am Pam of Pamela Lippit Communications. And I am a speaker, a podcaster, and a trainer. I work all in the communications field. I don't really write your stuff for you, so don't ask me to do that. But I empower you to use your voice in a strong, powerful way without overwhelming, to learn how to talk less, not more, which is critical when you're in the workplace. So that's what I do. I'm always interested in learning. I'm definitely a lifelong learner, and I love bringing new things to the people I work with.
Wonderful. Today we're gonna talk about, I asked Pam, I said, pick like one product or service or something that you do that we can talk about. And I think it was team training, but why don't you first tell us what it is that we're going to talk about today?
We're going to, first of all, I have no notes, and that's my goal in life, to never have notes, to know my stuff well enough. And that's how I approach training. Really, I'm going to dive into team training in two specific areas today. One is leadership, and the other is networking, so that a company's all on the same page. Because you can send 5 people to a networking event or a conference and come back with people thinking they've met 5 different companies. So that's what I really work on.
Okay, so quick question. Can you hear Pepper barking in the background right now?
No.
Okay,
No.
good. And I've got a really good microphone, but as a meeting host should do, if there's something that's distracting, like let's make sure we address it with the audience, or from an AV perspective, I would like close my door. If we're not, but my microphone is usually pretty good. It's really only picking up this amount of sound. And I actually tested this a while back, Pam. I was doing a LinkedIn live stream while I was making a pie in my kitchen. And I had my microphone, and I kid you not, a food processor was about 12 inches from my microphone, and I was dicing up, I don't know if it was apple or something. And when I listened to the playback, the food processor wasn't being picked up on my mic, and it was loud too. So I felt like I want to address it, but at any rate, I will take that out of the podcast because our podcast audience doesn't need to know about that.
Well, I actually think it's interesting for the audience to know the back end of things towards success. I'm all about leaving things in.
Let's do that then. We'll keep this in there. So thank you. Executive decision has been made. So we're here today talking about Pam Lippit, and she has some team training services focusing in on having consistent communication and networking. So tell us, Pam, is this something that a company came to you and said, we need this? Is this a need that you identified in the market that you created this offering around? Tell us a little bit of the backstory there.
I think it's a combination of, I've seen the need in the marketplace, and I have been in enough meetings throughout the course of my life where I know things could be better, especially when it comes to leadership. I say that there are 2 things you learn from a leader, a president, a chairman, a chair of a committee. You learn what to do, what to emulate when you get to that position, and what you never, ever want to do. Sometimes that list is even longer because you know how you feel. And you should really keep track of that for when you're in the position to lead something with someone else. I think those are critical pieces. So I can name the people that I have learned from, that I like to emulate. I'm proud to say those names. I also could name the people I never want to emulate, but I'm not naming those names.
Right. We don't want to do that. We're here for the positive aspects of things as well. So this is something that you've identified. Now, is this a service is this an easy sell? Like, do you go to a person and say, hey, I've noticed this with your team, with your leaders, and I'd like to help you out with this? Or how does that conversation come along?
A lot of times the conversation is when you see someone, that either they do team training, and the amount of people who leave an organization, a company, when there is training involved, drops by 17%.
Wow.
If there is training going on. So I start with that. I start with, talking about the cost of rehiring and the cost of finding someone new versus keeping someone you like happy so they don't look for what they perceive in the moment as greener pastures.
Yeah.
I think that I come in from that side. I also come in with the idea that there are opportunities for everyone to do a better job, for everyone to learn, and to speak to a higher place when you're either leading or wanting to lead in a meeting. But I think a leader can also be sitting in any seat in a meeting. And that's also what I talk about with the group. You may not be perceived as a leader, but what are the few things you can do so people walk away going, wow, now in that meeting, that person really shined. And I want to make sure as a boss that I am watching them.
Yeah, I like that. And I had to jot down two notes. I've actually got a standing desk that has a whiteboard on it. So I grabbed my little expo marker and I had to jot this down. I don't know about you, Pam, but like sometimes I have a thought and I don't want to interrupt my guest to ask the question, but I also don't want to lose my thought. And I think my mind and my brain is a wonderful thing. It's continually clearing and removing the cached contents. So I forget, but it's allowing me to focus on the next
yeah,
thing.
I think there's just so much clutter in my brain that I forget because it's overwhelming.
Yeah. So, okay. So two things that I was thinking as you were explaining your offering and your conversations that you're having, the first is, and there's a really great expression. If someone wants to Google it and drop it into the comment section, you can, but it's essentially, what if we train them and they leave? And the response is, what if you don't and they stay?
Yeah.
And, to your earlier point of, and I think you said like it helps with retention by 17% if you're investing in training and development. And I remember when I worked back in corporate, and we would have a line item in each department had a line item for professional development. And HR did the calculation, and it was like a per number of employees in the department. We wanted to spread that out amongst everyone. But I remember, especially in the really tough budget years when the company was going through, some down cycles, we'd be looking at where do we cut. And I come from marketing, so marketing and advertising is always the first line item because it's a big, but I would always remember professional development was in there. And I would ask our leadership team, our HR, well, shouldn't we be cutting that? And they said, no, we always want to be investing in our people in that. And any thoughts on that concept?
Well, first of all, you worked for a good company that understood that. So whether you left on good or not is a different conversation, but they understood investing in their people. And I think that we are currently in the corporate world mistreating our people to such a degree. And I'm going to say that from two sides. One is we cut staff and just double the workload on someone without even thinking about a raise, which is just critical. The other is we dump things on people time and time again, and we don't talk about priorities enough. So one of the things I talk about is the idea that it is important, if someone is dumping upon you, to take a little bit of control and say, so this happened to me today, actually. One of my teammates emailed me and said, will this list be ready today? And I said, it's for a nonprofit. And I said, no, I told you I am not doing anything until all the year-end tax letters go out. Because they have to be out by the 31st. That's all. That is a drop dead deadline. I have, by the way, 7 more to go.
Right.
That's it. Out of like 500. Out of 500. So I'm doing really well at that. But you can't do that to me. Or what happens is you get overwhelmed. So now you have your whole day planned. Something pops in the middle and it ruins your whole day. So you rush to get that done, only to get, that response saying, oh, that's so nice that you did it so quickly. I didn't need it till next week.
The hurry up and wait. The hurry up and wait. And then I'll look at that next week when I'm back from vacation.
Right. I see heads nodding. If you're watching the repeat, you can see heads nodding in this but we need to that is a leadership skill on both sides, to give people when you need something and give them also the agency to ask when it's needed and not think, oh my God, if I ask them when it's needed, they're going to think that's a fault.
Yeah.
No, that's just proper etiquette
It's time
and proper
management of your
planning.
own day,
Right.
and it's the
Right.
the management of those expectations too, and taking ownership of that. Now, one
Right.
other thing I wanted to address in what you talked about, and we're inside this program called Marketing with Meller, where we're all learning techniques from each other. And you were one of the first people who
Yes.
said, this isn't just a membership program. This is a community. Like, we are a community of people who support each other. When you were talking about when you're selling the team training or when you're having those conversations, you
Yeah.
were focusing on more of the benefits than I'll call them features. Like 10 people can attend this for 90-minute training and it's recorded, and that's more of the technical aspects of it, as
Right.
opposed to the benefits are you'll have a more cohesive strategy for your team. There's more consistent training that's helping to support professional development. It's helping you to achieve your company goals.
And you'll also have a happier team. What a
Yeah.
concept.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I do is managers, leader, the person in the front of the room, whatever their title happens to be, they know where the problem areas are, but they can't really bring them up. They don't have, they're scared to bring them up. They're reticent, whatever word you want to use about
Yeah.
bringing them up. So usually in the pre-meeting, I go through that list of things that could be better on your team. And then I put that into my natural order of presenting.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a benefit for the manager. They don't have to bring it up. But oh, look at that. I happen to think that's important.
Pam
When you just,
identified that. How did she know? It's
how did
almost
she
like the
know
good
we'd
cop.
be nervous?
It's
Right.
almost like
And
the good cop, bad cop, and you let them be the good cop, and you can be the bad cop, but from a perspective of someone who is training them and helping them, right?
I wouldn't say the bad cop. I would say the trainer cop,
Yeah.
the information source.
Yeah.
Because then it also gives the opportunity for someone on that team to speak to me after the meeting and say, that hit a point with me. Can we talk? Can I talk about that some more? Because that can lead, and I've had this happen where there's been team training that then leads to an individual who wants to move up in the world and wants to move up in their job skills come back to me to do individual coaching. Or I've also had the managers afterwards say to me, I'm going to identify two people who
Mm-hmm.
I think should and could benefit from a few more things because I really see the good and I want them to succeed. What a concept for
Yeah.
people in the workplace to want you to succeed.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be rocket science, right?
Yeah, and I think, a lot of leaders and managers, they want the company to do well. They want their team members to do well. And it's unfortunate because sometimes, we have to make decisions about cutting staff to remain profitable for the business. And, to your earlier point, you cut staff and then you add to the workload for other people without giving them more money, dumping on them and adding more responsibilities without giving them more compensation that goes along with it. And, there's definitely a delicate balance. And I remember from my corporate days, like, you're part of the team, you're part of the family and everything. And then all of a sudden one day, sometimes that doesn't work out and you're no longer part of it. You're like, wait a minute, I was part of the inner circle. And now today you're telling me I'm not. It's one of the challenges of, being in a leadership and a management position. Any thoughts on that? I might be going off into a little
No, you're going
diversion
off
here.
into a tangent that immediately made me think of a scenario that happened to me. Um, I worked for a company. They took us to Top Golf for the evening. All the people on the team, we had a blast. It was fun. They paid for everything. And the next week, everybody got an email saying Thursday morning you have to be in a physical office. Nobody can be remote Thursday morning.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And we walked in, and we were told the company had been sold.
Yeah.
And the new people, not only did the new people walk in and there were immediate interviews. I said, this is not an interview. This is not a get to know you. This is an interview. Like, you better up your game for your 10 minutes in there. And their kids walked in with cupcakes to celebrate.
Oh
And
boy.
everybody in the room was like, oh, I better schedule some doctor's appointments in the next 2 weeks. I don't know about him. And I said that I'm still on good terms with the guy. And I was very
Yeah.
honest with him. I knew him before he really recruited me. And he said, I don't understand that people aren't like being more happy for us. And I said, people are worried about their paycheck.
Right.
It's incidental to be worried about you. You just got a huge cash
Right.
payout.
Yeah, it's a different perspective of that's depending on which line of the side of the line you fall on with the
Right.
acquisition and
And
with
he was a great boss. And so it
right.
was just like, I think it was like a internal family dynamics that created it to
Yeah.
work like that. I would
Yeah.
like to give him that grace because he really is a great guy.
Yeah.
But it's just how you perceive things and how you look at the people. You're right. The one day you're like on the team and whatever, but then you find out people have been talking behind your back.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. But maybe that's where you can help them with your communications
Yes.
training, right?
Yes.
So what I'd like to do now, Pam, is we're going to change gears. We're going to open up
Okay.
the floor for questions from our members. And I do see there's a couple questions that have come into chat, one from Christopher Johnson. And Christopher's asking, what type of communication skills do you think entrepreneurs need? What are your thoughts there, Pam?
Every single one.
Mhm.
I got a good laugh. You got to be flexible. I think that you have to, you said that one of the things I work with is concise communication.
Mhm.
And as an entrepreneur, especially in the product world, you have to be concise and you have to talk about the latest success. I often have been at like networking events or different things, and entrepreneurs always want to talk to me. They always because I have a pretty good reputation, thank God. I've worked hard for it. It doesn't come easily. And I listen to person after person tell me the ways their company failed with a product on the way to success. And I always think to myself, boy, if I had a checkbook, I
Right.
don't really care what your failure were. You have to sell me your success. And so that would be my biggest tip is sell the success.
Hmm. Okay, that's great. And I think a lot
So,
of us as entrepreneurs, I call it the roller coaster of
yeah,
success. Some months are like the best months you could ever. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't even remember my corporate days. They were so good. And then some months are like, I don't call them bad months. I call them soft months, but they're the valley of the roller coaster. My son has a business, which is a car detailing business.
right.
And we were talking last night and he's like, this week has been like really hard. And I said, you think nobody wants to go outside right now and nobody wants to get
Right.
their car cleaned right now. Thankfully, he's leased a garage for the winter months. But I said, and this is his first winter, I said, I'm so proud of you because you're riding this roller coaster right now. You're in this pivot, this down of your business right now. But he's still booking business this week. He's still detailing cars this week.
So I would
And
think of it as like the Dairy Queen.
yeah,
Really, the Dairy Queen line or whatever is out the block and around the
yeah. And,
corner
and I said, just
in the
remember this. And
summer
I said,
months.
get like a journal and start writing these things down because come July, you're going to look back and go, gosh, remember January?
So,
You don't
and yeah,
have
the
that
other
perspective.
piece of advice that came
Mhm.
through my mother from my grandfather, who owned a business, was never look week to week or month
Mhm.
to month.
Yeah.
Look season to season. Look, like quarter to quarter. I've owned a direct mailing company. That's a whole different conversation since the
Yeah.
1980s. And that was the biggest advice
Hmm.
because when you think about it, holidays can fall different times of the year. Sometimes they fall the end of the month, sometimes the beginning of the month. Like think about Labor Day when it
Hmm.
falls. And so
Yeah.
that can affect your business. So you need to look at more seasonal income than
Hmm.
day to day.
Yeah.
And just make sure, if this week wasn't good, but last week was, you know what, it evens out. Just
It
make sure
does.
it's evening out.
Yeah. Very good. All right. Another question, and thank you, Christopher, for your question.
Yes.
Another question coming in from Royce Blake, and Royce is asking, are you seeing more managers or employees discussing the ramifications of AI in the work that you do?
I'm not.
Hmm.
I kind of talk about it a little bit as it could be a starting tool. But like I said, for me, it's being able to know your stuff. And I use AI. Don't think I don't. Boy, do I. But I always look at it as my starting point, not my ending point.
I don't know about you, Pam, but like you can sense when someone's using AI because there's patterns that are coming out in terms of like how AI is writing things up. And I've noticed this theme of it's not this, it's that, or it's not this, but it's also that. So now that I've said this, I want you all to look at when you get an email from someone or when you see a social media post, if you can see that pattern in there. It's not just about posting every day on LinkedIn, it's about generating engagement. Or it's not just about
It's about
emailing your
content.
list 3 times a week. It's also about, are they opening it? Like now that you've seen that, and it's, I think, to Royce's, I think one of the underlying points there is trust. Are we trusting people? Are we getting a genuine message out there?
Right.
I think in some industries and professions, it might be there might be more ramifications. If we're giving people professional advice, is it solid advice that we're giving them? But I think from my perspective, and maybe from yours as well, Pam, because we're focused on communication and communicating with people and building trust. I like AI as a tool, as calculator is to math. It allows me to do math faster.
Right.
But I don't like AI as a replacement, especially if it doesn't sound like me. So I always like read things out loud as if I'm talking to Annette or Royce or Marianne or Elaine or Pam. Like if I'm reading this to Pam, if I read this to Pam, would Pam check me on it? Would she go, what? That sounds kind of goofy.
Or
right?
Is that you, really?
Yeah, like why would you say that? Or you might be like, are we on video? Like, why are you saying it that way that you're saying it?
And you also sometimes think that, I don't believe in reading things anyway. So to me, this is like 10 times that. Mm-hmm. Though I use AI a lot to generate lists.
Yeah.
I'll tell you. So Brenda and I are both in Michigan. And yesterday was the 189th or something anniversary of the statehood of Michigan.
Yeah.
It makes sense on a cold day. And someone put up this list of things and then said, like, what other facts do you know about Michigan? And so first I put up 3 that I knew, but I really wanted 5. So I asked ChatGPT, I call her Chatty. I asked her for some additional tips. Now that is not critical to life. And so I could copy those in. Yeah. But if I'm sending a letter, or sending an email, it's always, oh, that's a good idea. Now let me write from that.
Yeah. So I'll add on to that too. And Royce, this might help too. Like I was writing an email to someone the other day and I had a discovery call with this person at the beginning of the month. It was for her to book me at a conference and she wanted one thing. I wanted to do something else. And she said, no, let's do this thing. So we had a proposal review call and we were in the middle of the call and she said suddenly, oh, my vet is calling. I've got something going on with my pet. I need to go. And we just quickly ended the call. I didn't know what it was. She didn't offer it out. So I emailed her later that afternoon and I said, hope everything's okay. Let me know when you can reschedule. And didn't hear back. 2 weeks went by. The conference is looming. It's coming up. I haven't heard from her. So I wrote an email. And as I read it, Pam, I was like, I feel like it sounds annoying. Like I'm annoyed when I was the way I wrote it was like, I hadn't heard back from you. You dropped off quickly. I hope everything's okay. But, I need to know so I can lock it in my And the way I wrote it, I was like, I know how I was feeling it. I didn't want that to come out. So I put it I use Gemini. I put it into Gemini and I said, I'm a LinkedIn coach and trainer. I want to be booked for a conference. Here's what I'm saying. How could I say it so it's more professional, friendly? And it came back and it criticized me. It's like, well, when you say this, it makes it sound like it's her fault, right? So do you use AI for that purpose at all?
Once in a while, but not so much. I'm a pretty good writer.
You're a communications pro. You do this for a living.
I have a degree. I have an actual college degree in communications.
Yeah, that's true.
From the University of Michigan, in case you wonder what the M Go Blue always behind me is. Yeah. But I actually, old school, what I would have done was let it sit. When there's an email like that, I do one of 2 things.
Yeah.
I either don't put the person's name on in the to subject to start, because God forbid I would like hit the button by mistake to send, or I write it in a Word doc until I'm happy with it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, this is like my little cheat sheet thing. I find that if you look at it and you look at the end of it and stick that at the beginning, you've solved your own problem.
Oh, that's a good point. I like that.
You know, if you flip things around, it's usually because you usually, as you write, you soften it because you realized you were being a little harsh. So you probably, as you went, softened it. So if you put that softer part on the top and then say, you know, I don't want to bother you, but I need to lock the dates into my calendar. So let's figure out, you know, how to move forward, or, you know, if you made a different decision, that's up to you, and just let me know. So I think that's good. And I always sleep on a difficult email.
I like that point. That's good. So I want to be respectful of your time. We were planning on 30 minutes and we're coming up to the 30-minute point right now. So Pam, we were talking about your team training offerings that you do for organizations. If someone is interested in learning more about where they could book you, or does that process start with a discovery call, or what's the next step?
Yes, there's a discovery call and it has some little questions on it, you know, through Calendly or whatever. I think now I've called it Connect instead of discovery call. I decided I didn't like discovery call because I want people to connect with me. I thought it was a friendlier term. I know everybody uses, I wanted it to stand out a little differently. I did use AI to look up different words for that, by the way.
I like that. Yeah.
You know, so I use it for those kind of things. What can I say besides discovery call? And so, yes, you can book me. We'll have a link, I think, on the show notes of how to get in. I'm also very active on LinkedIn because, you know, I know Brenda Meller, so I have to be. And so, you know, you can always reach out to me there. I'm Pamela Lippit. And so you can find me, connect. I'm always looking to grow. And you can also follow my podcast, which is called Communication is an Art. I think communication is much more an art than a science, and that's why it's named that way, where I'm really focusing in on leadership skills this season.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Pam, for being our spotlight for today. We learned all about Pam Lippet and one of her offerings. I do see we have a hand raised, so we'll see if we have one more question before we wrap up. Annette, did you have a question for Pam?
No, I don't. I just wanted to mention, because I didn't hear her mention, that she just hit a podcast download milestone.
I did. Well, it's a small milestone compared to other people.
But
it's a milestone. Listen, Buzzsprout told me it was a milestone. I'll go with it. I hit 500 downloads.
Congratulations.
And the second 500 was a much shorter time. The second 250 was a much shorter time than the first 250.
That means you're getting listeners to come back and they're binging your content now. That's great.
Is it me, or when I open the thing every day and before I've even promoted it and I see that people have looked at it, I'm in shock.
Doesn't it make you feel good? Because a podcast is different. Like on a LinkedIn post or an Instagram or YouTube, like we'll get likes and we'll get comments. A podcast, unless people reach out to you, text you or email you, like you don't know, like, are people listening to, are they enjoying it? And, you know, sometimes it's that longer process from, I've had people that have listened to my podcast, you know, and then eventually enrolled in my program. Great. I didn't know they were listening to it for the past 18 months. And all of a sudden they came out and signed up for a webinar and then enrolled in my program. So it's helpful to, you know, to hear those things. So thank you, Annette, and congratulations to you, Pam, on 500 downloads.
Yes. Thank you.
Wonderful. That's good. All right. So we're going to wrap this up for today. I want to thank all the Marketing with Meller members for being on the Zoom with us. And I'll let all you know who are listening to the podcast as well. We'll have links in show notes for that discovery or connection call with Pam. I'll also put her LinkedIn URL, and then I'll put the name and the link to her podcast in case you want to listen in as well. And I'll remind Marketing with Meller members, if you'd like to be a member spotlight in the future, we'll talk about one of your products, services, or offerings. I think next up we have Kenneth Lang coming up. After Kenneth will be Carrie. And then I do have Carrie Saunders, I should say. And then I do have openings after that. I'm looking at featuring maybe one member a month, or we might go in every other month frequency. So if you're interested, you can go into the chat in Zoom right now and just say, I am interested, or send me an email separately and I'll get you your scheduling link on that. So thank you all again so much for listening. Thank you, Pam. I'm going to stop the recording and I'll keep our Zoom open for just a few minutes here.